What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you part 3 of the full story of Divinity. So, last episode we got into Stormfist Castle, kind of learned more about the broader plot of what's going on, and that honestly Janice is, of course, possessed by the demon of, the Lord of Chaos, whatever you want to call him, basically the devil in this particular world. What we have to do now is find the 7 council members of the Council of 7, as you might imagine, and convince them to come and perform the council ritual so we can rise to divinity and face this threat head on. By scrying into the orbs, as I mentioned last episode as well, we can see who the current council member is, because the old ones have been dead for a while. So, starting off with the easiest one, the humans, we find out that the human council member is actually Mortismal from episode 1. Now, this is why we want to go ahead and do the catacombs thing at the start of the game, because A, it'll kind of get you some stuff to get you moving and be a little better off as far as exploring goes, but also because Mortismal is this human council member. And if we haven't cured him of his insanity yet, he obviously can't join the council. So we have to do that part, and then when we're ready, go back to Alaroth, where Mortismal lives, and it turns out that the town has been attacked by orcs, so we have to kill all of them, then kill their leader, fight their leader, she actually runs off, and then after that, Mortismal comes out, tells you how you have to grab the key off this woman's corpse, then go unlock his door, and Mortismal kind of tells you how they attacked and everything, you ask him to join the council, ta-da, you're done. So, next up is the lizard guy is the one I like to do next. Gomo, I guess is how it's pronounced. So, he is the lizard council member. Now, this guy is also a healer in Alaroth. I don't believe I mentioned him up to this point. But, in order to recruit him to the Council of 7, we have to have done the Send Aid to Rivertown quest. So Rivertown is of course dealing with a plague issue at the moment that the healers of Alaroth are requested to help with. So we have to go to the barracks, which we did at the start of episode 2, I believe, and send a military escort to Alaroth to get the healers to Rivertown. Now, once that's done, all of the healers move into the Blue Boar Inn, which is just slightly north of Rivertown. Now, if we go there after this is done to talk to Gomo, we find out that he just left abruptly with a bunch of shady characters if we talk to the other healers there. And if you do some poking around, you can find out that he was taken to a town north of the dukedom called Verdistus. And if you do some poking around in Verdistus, you can find out that some strange characters just moved into an abandoned house there. Now, once you go in, you fight a bunch of thugs, go down the stairs, you get frozen in place by another of the Lord of Chaos's minions. And while he leaves to fetch his master, Zandalor comes in, saves you from your freezing, and tells you that Gomo has been polymorphed into a lizard, and you have to figure out how to deal with that. It's actually super easy. There's a wand of polymorph, in the next room. So you just pick that up, talk to the snake, and you can sort that out. Gomo switches back into a lizard, and you can ask him to join the Council of 7. Ta-da, you're done with the lizards. And that brings us to the Imps. So if we look at who the Imp Council member is, it's not somebody that we know. But we do recognize their surroundings as the Ducal Inn in Verdistus, which is the town we're already in, saving Gomo. So we go to that inn, we talk to an imp, and unfortunately I can't show you all the footage for this because this quest actually bugged on me, and it is a known bug that still sometimes happens. So, and by the way, this is a fully patched game. This is the only bug that I actually ran into while playing with it, and it was a huge pain. So, in order to fix this bug, which by the way, the imp wouldn't talk to me at all, I couldn't interact with him in any way, and then he just randomly died. So I don't know what happened exactly. But that said, I had to use a hex editor to go in, alter my save data file. If you don't know what a hex editor is, it just lets you go in and alter the actual binary code of a file. So I had to go in there, use that to alter my player position to the place that the imp in this inn teleports you to. Because the imp you actually need to talk to is not the imp in the inn. The imp you need to talk to is in this weird plane of existence that the imp in the inn is controlling. If you played Divinity Original Sin 2, you know that pocket realms are a thing imps like to do. So in this pocket realm, we find out that there's a huge battle going on between wasps and bees, which is weird, but you have to pick a side, help. You can kill everyone too if you want. It's very strange. But at the end of it, you find the imp you're looking for, ask him to join the council, and you're pretty well done. This was a strange one, to say the very least. And that brings us to the last of the easy ones, which is the Orc Council Member. Now, if we scry the Orc Council Member, we find that he is in a prison, an Orc prison, basically. So we may or may not know where this is at this point in the game. So when we needed to get an invitation to Stormfist Castle, which through the magic of videos I went ahead and skipped because it would have taken forever for the sake of seeing the main story. But it's one of the ways you can earn a invitation to the Stormfist Castle is by helping the army at the barracks. All you got to do is basically help them rout the orc invasion that has been happening, that you kind of get introduced to in Alaroth. And if you've done that, you've of course found the orc camp where these prisons are. And if you've done that, you can free an orc named Croxy. And all you gotta do is talk to him. Like, freeing him is enough to get him to join the council. That's literally all you have to do. So it's basically like, if you haven't done this quest line, go do it kind of thing. So as long as you've done that, you're done. That's all you gotta do. Then you can talk to Croxy, ask him to join the council, and you're done. Now this brings us to the two more difficult ones to do. The Elfin Council Member and the Dwarven Council Member. Now, the Dwarven Council Member actually won't be able to be scryed until this point. Like, you can scry him, but nobody knows who he is or where he is. So, at this point, once you enter the Dark Forest, which is the second section of map in this open world, you can actually scry him at that point, and you still won't know who he is, but you'll recognize the landmark behind him, or at least Zandalor will, and he'll tell you that it's the stone monument in Glenboris. Now, if we go down to Glenboris and talk to the dwarf in front of it that we immediately recognize by his distinctive clothing, we find out that his name is Eolus, something like that. It's hard to pronounce for me. So we talk to him, and we find out that he will not join the council until the Axe of Stone is retrieved. It's just a dwarven artifact. They believe that elves have stolen it, which I alluded to in the last video, actually, when I was talking about Janus instigating wars and that the dwarves and elves are accusing each other of stealing each other's artifacts. So one of the artifacts for the dwarves that is missing is the Axe of Stone. Now, if we talk to Eolus, we can find out that they actually have a captive in town that they think stole it, that they found outside of town passed out, and they're just trying to interrogate him to find out where he took the Axe of Stone. This is where this can actually go one of two ways, because at this point you can either go to the mayor and talk to him about seeing this prisoner, or you can actually go down south to the Dwarven King and speak to him about it, and he will then tell you more about the Axe of Stone, and it'll essentially send you back to the town to talk to this guy. But what you want to do is talk to the mayor, find out that he's a drunk, that's important, and then go talk to the elven prisoner after he gives you permission. After talking to the elven prisoner, you can find out that what he smelled before he was knocked out was rancid mead. And then you put two and two together and you're like, oh hey, the mayor's a drunk. So you realize that the mayor is at least involved in this in some way. So at this point, we have to go get him an ale and take it to him to, butter him up, essentially, and get us to give us information. After we do this, the Dwarven Mayor will tell us that his new friends are helping him try to overthrow the Dwarven King, who's a guy he doesn't like. I guess it's his brother or something. From this, we find out that the people with the Axe of Stone that have enacted this plan are holed up in the mines in the Dwarven Halls, which is where the Dwarven King is. It's just like a mine section of the Dwarven homeland. So we go there, we plumb the depths of these mines, we come and find Mortismal, I guess is how you pronounce this guy's name. And it turns out that he has the Axe of Stone, so we fight and attack him until he runs away. And then we can find the Axe of Stone in the next room. And then once we return that axe to the king, by the way, that's probably the easiest way to do it, is just go to the king with it and give it back, and that solves that problem. And then we can go talk to Eolus, he'll join the Council of Seven. Ta-da, you've done one of the hard ones. Now that brings us to the last council member, which is the Elf Council Member. Now when we scry this council member, it turns out that it is actually Bronthian, which you may or may not remember is the elf that came to Duke Janus's court to talk about the dwarves stealing their artifacts from episode 2. So if you go down to the elven encampment in the Dark Forest, you can find Bronthian, who tells you that He's very honored that you asked him to join the Council of Seven, but he absolutely can't do it until he gets back the artifacts that were stolen by the dwarves. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's like the same thing for the dwarves, but in reverse. So, he sends us down south to the Elven Burial Grounds, where we find that a bunch of dwarves are in fact destroying the Elven Burial Grounds and stealing things. However, they're acting very strangely. So if you follow these dwarves, they will lead you through an orc encampment down to a secret lair where you are immediately attacked by a bunch of mind-controlled dwarves and a woman named Josephina. By the way, just a quick side note, Josephina is the absolute hardest boss in this game. You have to fight her twice. She teleports away after this, and then you kill her later on. Like, spoiler, I guess, on the game from 2002. I mention this because, oh my god, this woman is a nightmare. She is so difficult to fight. The first time I was actually able to melee her down with some potions and stuff, but like, in the next episode, I'll get to just how ridiculous fighting this woman is. But anyway, after we have to wind up killing the dwarves, actually, but once we get the elven artifacts back from Josephina, who happens to have all 3 of them that Brontheon sends you after, you can bring the artifacts back to Brontheon, who's like, oh my god, thank you, and then, joins the council. Now, the most important part of this part of the story is the stuff that goes on between the dwarves and the elves. So, if you remember from the last episode, Duke Janus was trying to instigate a war between the two, on purpose, obviously. So by completing these 2 things, we stop that war from happening. We keep the dwarves and elves from going to war with each other by essentially proving that neither of them is responsible for stealing the other one's artifacts. Now, with that out of the way, we go back to Zandalore. We tell him that we have gathered the Council of Seven, yay, and that they can perform their ritual. So that is where we are going to leave off episode 3. The next episode will be the final episode. It's a pain. I'm gonna have to piece together a bunch of footage. Like, it won't be like a super long time or anything. Like, it won't be a long video. I just want to make it by itself. So I want to mention that right now, before this, after this part of the game is... it's over for all intents and purposes. Like, it's not like really over, but from here to the end of the game is just one giant linear run. That's it. So the last part is just going to be us wrapping up this video and the full story of Divine Divinity. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed what you see. If you have any questions, just let me know, I guess. Any comments, anything like that, down in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe, do all of those YouTube-y things, consider joining, blah, 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 words. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.